for our introduction. And I would like to ask one of our scientific research specialists, Colin Robinson, to invite on stage, and he will share with us the information, what is difference from all of our product, what's inside is fantastic essential oil. Colin, you are online.
Thanks, Andrew, and good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. My name's Dr. Colin Robertson. I'm a part of the research team. I joined ZinZino just at the end of last year myself, and the reason being is because I've spent the past 25 years working in everything from clinical health as a clinical exercise physiologist, all the way through to helping athletes prepare for the Olympic Games, to climb Everest, row across the Atlantic, you name it. I've worked in that space, but my key drive has been how to improve global health. And when I became aware of ZinZino and what ZinZino was about and its philosophy and its key flagship product, which I'm about to take you through now as quickly as I possibly can, I'm sure I'll get to speak to you about this again further down the road. I realized that this was a true game-changing product, and that what we had was a way to help the world to heal, to really invest in preventative health and help people to live better quality of life. So over the next 10 minutes, I am going to take you on a whistle-stop tour through our key product, which is the Ascent Oil, which is that game-changing product when it comes to health. Because prevention is better than cure. And something that's been left behind in our technical evolution is our cellular health and the importance of our cellular status. We all are, every single one of you, hundreds and hundreds of people on this call this evening, this afternoon, this morning, are a collection of billions of cells. And from the moment we are born, all the way through, those cells are turning over. Your health cannot be as optimal as it has the potential to be if you're not right at a cellular level. And this hinges off a key factor. And this comes down to the ratio between those polyunsaturated fatty acids, those omegas, principally omega-6 and omega-3. And we have a problem in the world that we are out of balance. For most people, we encourage them to increase their omega-3s in their diet and reduce their omega-6s. But it's nigh on impossible because the way in which food is produced nowadays, mass manufacture of production of foods, has changed the way we eat and what's available to us. And actually accessing those good quality sources of those omega-3s, particularly the marine-based omega-3s, the DHA and the EPA, have become harder and harder to achieve as our societies have changed and our dietary behaviors have changed along with it. So we have this out of balance ratio with regards to the food we consume and therefore what happens at a cellular level. And this is something that we need to be proactive about correcting. We have to do this in advance. This way we can put ourselves in a better state of preserved health. But we need to look at our diet, because on the left here, we've got our fatty fish, we've got our wild salmon, we've got our rich sources of those omega-3s. But the reality is most people consume the types of fish when they consume fish from the sources on the right. When it comes to those omega-9s, which you haven't mentioned, omega-9s play such a key role in our health status as well. Well, that comes from that virgin olive oil, that extra virgin olive oil from those olives. And yet, and it's very true over in India, 75% of Indian oil consumption comes from palm oil and soybean oil, which again is richer sources of those omega-6s. So when we look at dietary behaviors across the globe, we see this consistent pattern of shift and change towards those most manufactured, easier to access sources of foods and nutrients, which take further and further steps away from the sources that we actually need, that we've evolved from this planet consuming and being based upon. Our relationship with nature, with the planet, as we've progressed as a species, has relied on this. But there's been a fundamental change in how we do food. And so much of this has been left behind. In India today, We're seeing a young population with different eating habits. Things have changed. The world has changed. We've experienced this here in the UK, where I'm based, certainly in the US, all across mainland Europe, Australia, and we're seeing this in India as well. Every third person is a youth in India, and in approximately 7 years' time, the median age will be 29. Frozen ready meals already outpace any other subcategory of food, with double-digit growth in 2019. This is the same shift in dietary behavior that we've seen across the world. And McCain Foods India continues to be the leader. And they are producing mass manufactured ultra-processed foods, which give us direct access, more often than not, to some of the things we shouldn't eat, but definitely to increased sources of omega-6. No omega-3. We need to strike a better balance. We need to start to figure, how do we address this? How do we get that essential omega-3 back into the diet sustainably? There are 7.8 billion people in the world. In reality, to achieve this through our diet, we would have to be eating line-caught, wild, fatty fish 4 to 5 times per week. So do the maths, 7.8 billion times 4 to 5 per week. It's not ecologically sustainable. So we need to use 21st century food technology to better use, to create solutions and not more problems. When we have a look at omega status across the world, India, sadly, with its change in behavior, with this move towards fast food, less fish, what do we see? Well, we see a similar profile to this. We see an average omega-6-3 ratio of 14.8 to 1. So that means that within the cell, we have 14.8 omega-6 to 1 omega-3. And really, we want that ratio to be less than 4 to 1 in order for us to reach that plateau, that level in which we know those inflammatory markers are down and the status of the cell is optimized. We get this nice permeable membrane. Nutrients can get in, toxins can get out, and the cell is a happy place to be. When we look at people who consume other types of omega-3 product, the fish oil industry, what do we see? Well, we see a bit of an improvement, but we still don't see people reaching the required level. We see this now on average across the world at 9.9 to 1. So still way outside the required range of that 4 to 1. But this is what we see. And there's good reason for that. And we at ZinZino agree with the next statement, is the fish oil doesn't work. There's a key element missing from fish oil, and that it's not attached to the polyphenol. The polyphenol, going back a moment ago when we discussed our virgin olive oil, the polyphenol is key to this. Wherever we find omega-3 in the wild, it is attached to a polyphenol. And the fish oil industry separates the two. And that leaves the omega-3 vulnerable, sensitive to heat, and it experiences a lot of deterioration before it can ever reach the cell. And hence why we see those types of statistics. And the research supports that. However, when we get to the essential oil, we see something decidedly different. And my colleague Henrique is going to talk through the test shortly, so I'll just focus on some of the data. Across that 120 days of consumption of the essential oil, what we see is people going from this pro-inflammatory state, where we see those raised levels of omega-6 to 3, to that anti-inflammatory state, where we get beneath that 4 to 1. In beyond 95% instances, we see this change brought about. This is the most important fundamental switch we can make to the cell. At this level, we are starting to normalize the health status of the cell, controlling those inflammatory markers, and therefore better placing us with every other consequence of our potential health. So what we see here, so regardless of where a person started from, whether they were taking no omega-3 supplements, whether they were using something from that fish oil industry, once they commence their journey, that 120-day period, we see that change take place. We see those people achieve the level required to optimize the inflammatory status, to reduce those inflammatory markers and optimize the health of the cell. This is critical to our health. It's critical to our gut health, our brain health, our physiological well-being. And it's something that shifts our risk away from more chronic diseases and illnesses. So how does it do it? What's the magic within this formula? What makes it unique? And it is unique. Hence why I am now at ZinZino, to drive this further forward and to help to change the health of the world. Well, first of all, we have certified from sustainable aquaculture, friend of the sea, good quality fish that comprise the oil that makes it to the Ascent oil. Secondly, we have the Picual olives, pre-harvested, cold pressed, packed with polyphenols, 750 milligrams per kilogram versus the industry standard of 100 milligrams per kilogram. So we have quality. We have the two essential ingredients, component parts of the Ascent oil, which is the good quality fish that provide the oil. And then we have the high polyphenol packed phytonutrient oil, the olive oil, that is wrapping that up and acting as a chaperone, protecting that omega-3 as it goes through the stomach, enabling it to reach the cell. The olive oil alone acts as an anti-inflammatory, unleashing the omega-3 to take charge of the cell and further control those inflammatory markers, enhancing the quality and the status of the cell membrane. Simply offer dosage that's relevant to your body weight, 0.15 mil per kilogram. And this safely adjusts our omega-3 within 120 days. And it takes 120 days for our red blood cell count to turn over. And within that time, we can literally transform our cellular status and health. We have certified analysis with regards to the quality and the rigor that the product goes through before it reaches the market. So we know that it's safe. We know that it's effective. We sit on a database of over 600,000 dry blood spot samples. We can back up our figures that we reveal. And we know that through all of this process, we are changing health one cell at a time. By doing this, by simply adding this much of a daily routine of taking the Ascent oil, we enhance our health on multiple levels, our gut health, our psychological well-being, our mental state, starting to address some of those factors with regards to how we consume foods, and we genuinely engage and invest in prevention as a health rather than correction. I would now, at that point, having whistle stopped through the Ascent oil, the flagship product, I'm going to hand over. I believe Henrik is now going to talk to you next, but I'll hand back to you, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Colin, for such insightful information. And I would like to invite our Chief Product Officer, Henrik Schultz. And please, Henrik, tell us how to measure if we really need this Ascent oil and how to do it really effectively. Henrik, you are there.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And let me say that it has been a pleasure to be working with ZinZino since 2007. And have enjoyed this fantastic journey as we've moved on and gone from country to country, success to success. So let me see if I can. So I'm going to talk briefly about the balance test, the way of analyzing where you are and analyzing where you are after consuming the product for some time. So let me first introduce and say we are using a laboratory in Norway called Vitas Analytical Services. Why? Well, because they are among the biggest and the best and most professional laboratories, and they are totally independent, and they are being used by most pharmaceutical companies, universities, hospitals, and private companies like ZinZino, because they have the capacity and the ability to grow with us and being so very professional in the analysis. So before moving into the details, I like to take the opportunity to stress a few things, since this is a new market and a lot of new people looking at the test. First of all, we don't want any hand cream or grease on the hands because those contain fat, and we are analyzing fat. So wash your hand with warm water and soap. Then once you have pricked your finger and you have blood drop, do not touch at any time the filter paper because you still have fat on your fingers. And this is quite essential. I also like to point out, especially in India, where it was a warm climate, that when you open a test and find the aluminium pouch, which you're going to use for sending in the sample, there is a drying bag inside. It's absolutely crucial this one remains inside. Otherwise, you might jeopardize the blood sample and the results will be a little bit crazy. Then you put your sample card inside the metal pouch and then make sure you close it fully. We don't want it to be open and having oxygen coming in. So these are a few things that is going to make sure the analyze is going to be as good as it can be. Once you've taken the test and you've done this and put your sample into the aluminum pouch and then into the envelope and sent it off, we urge you to go straightly to the website ZinZinoTest.com and you can there register your code. And when you do that, we ask you kindly to inform us, where are you from? What country? What's your age, height, and weight? Have you consumed the product and so on? This helps us achieving a fantastic database with anonymous results, but still we can find out things like age and groups of children or adults and weight and so on in order to do research and get even better products in the future. I also show you a few things there. It says activate notification. So you can type in your email or your telephone number if you want to. It's not required. It's an opportunity, and we will email you once your results have been, your blood has been analyzed and the results are ready to be viewed. There's also a possibility to add several emails or telephone numbers should you, for example, as a partner, like to be notified as well as your customer. So back to the test. So you pricked your finger, you have a drop of blood, and which you gently place at the test card in the circle. Once this arrives at Vita's laboratory, they punch out the circle, they put it into a glass vial, add the liquid, and then it goes into a chromatograph, which is an analytical instrument like a big computer. So what comes out? Well, it's a chromatogram, of course. And you can see the spikes, and the higher and the more wider they are, the bigger result of the fatty acid there is. And what we do is that we are measuring the percent value, and this is important to understand. We're not trying to measure gram or milliliters or anything like this in your blood. It's the percentage. How much of the EPA, the omega-3, is out of the total, the percentage. And you can see here we mark them in red and yellow and red and blue and so on. And that is how to calculate the size of the measurement. And then we can see as a percentage of the total. So again, talk about percentage. So we've got here a person who sent in a big drop and a small drop. And as you can see, AA, the omega-6, is 7.1% in the big drop, but it's also 7.1% in the small drop, even though it's a smaller content. And for example, when we are calculating the balance, the omega-6 free, this is how it works. So we take the 7.1 divided by 2.36 and we get 3, because there are 3 times more omega-6 than omega-3 in the blood. And we express that as a ratio, meaning 3 to 1. So in the balance test, we are measuring 11 fatty acids. 7 of those fatty acids are used to calculate mathematically 6 indicators. And the remaining 4, we are just giving you them as individual values. So once you completed a test and it's analyzed and you get notified, you will find out, for example, like this person. He or she is unbalanced, 12.9 to 1. There is something called a protection value, 0%. That's quite low. And we can see the other indicators which we calculated. And if we look and scroll down on the website, it will be more detailed. So the omega-6 free balance should be below 3 to 1. And you can see how it's calculated. The percentage of omega-6 divided by the percentage of EPA. We get a number 12.9 expressed as a ratio. Protection value. That is actually 3 scientific ways of describing if you are belonging to the group who are protected or not so much protected. If you have good values on the omega-6 free balance, that's 1/3. If you have a high omega-3 content, the omega-3 index, that's another 1/3. And then there is a way of calculating the total omega balance using all the fatty acids. And if you're good on that, that's also 1/3. All these 3s are connected together and giving values and should be above 90%. However, EPA, the omega-3, is central in all calculations. So if you're low on that, you're going to have low scores. And like this person, 0. And I'll come back to this in a second. Then we scroll down, we see the omega-3 index. All the science shows that if you are above 8%, you have minimized the risk of cardiovascular diseases, for example. And it's the EPA percentage plus the DHA percentage that we are calculating. We are also showing something called the mental strength index. Now, we are not actually measuring the mental status of your situation. What we are measuring is the combination of the omega-6 divided by the omega-3s. And this shows if you have an optimal fatty acid composition that is good for your brain. And your brain consists to a large extent of DHA and needs all the other fatty acids to function properly. So if we can find this in a blood cell, we can scientifically draw the conclusion your brain has an optimum situation. Then we have cell membrane fluidity. We need to have a soft cell membrane letting nutrients in and waste products out of the cell. And again, we are not measuring the cell membrane. We're looking for a situation in the blood. And if we can see that the saturated fats, palmitic acid and stearic acid, divided by the omegas, is in a certain composition, then we know it's the same situation in your cells and you have a good situation in your membrane. Then finally, we're showing the omega-6, the arachidonic acid. This one is needed to create inflammation processes to heal you if you're sick or if you fall down and hurt yourself and so on. So you need a certain amount of omega-6 in your system, between 6.5 and 9.5. And we just want to make sure that you're not too low and not too high. Finally, then, we are looking also on a table further down on the website where you can see all the values for comes from your analysis. And when you see the target values, these are the values found in huge populations in our database of people being in balance. So if you can reach our target values, you're reaching what the best people have in our database. And then you can see your value. And moving down on the list on the omega-3s, you can see the important EPA, the omega-3. This person only has 0.5%. This is extremely low. And to the far right, we are showing you the deviation in percentage, which is close to 87%. No wonder that this person has a protection index that is 0, because such a low value is going to create low values in all the calculations. So this person has an opportunity to increase the omegas in her system, and then most figures will be okay, and the indicators will be okay. So right now, for this short presentation, I'd like to end with stating we have over 630,000 fatty acid tests analyzed. It's the world's largest database by far. Nobody's even close. And when we make a statement about target values or what it is in the world, we can back it up with tons of scientific evidence. So now we rely on you, my friends in India, to help us achieve over 1 million tests very soon. I wish you all the best and good luck, and thank you very much for listening.
Our nature is a powerful designer. When nutrients are in the right balance, we get a superfood. ZinZino provide cutting-edge, best-in-class products from the new science of pharmaconutrition, which uses active nutrients from food to fight the imbalances in our modern lifestyle. Eating fish is healthy. It is a well-known truth that higher levels of omega-3 support a healthy heart, an optimal brain function, and your immune system. How much do you need?
To know this, you have to measure the balance of omega-6 and omega-3, which you can do with the ZinZino test. We have tested several 100,000 people. Our statistics show that 95 out of 100 have too much omega-6 and too little omega-3.
Our DNA was programmed with a 1-to-1 balance. Today, the average is 15-to-1. According to the World Health Organization, a healthy balance for the heart should be less than 5-to-1, while science recommends 3-to-1. Balance oil is many times more effective than normal omega-3 supplements. These ingredients help support in most foods that are rich in omega-3, like seafood, seeds and nuts. We find them also to be rich in polyphenols. Polyphenols are micronutrients known for their power to reduce oxidation in your cells and cell membranes. Sadly, the omega-3 industry ignored this important truth. They left out the polyphenols. ZinZino respects and understands nature. We combine the highest quality omega-3 with the most potent source of polyphenols from a pre-harvested olive oil. When this works together, it creates a powerful synergy. For the final touch, we added the sunshine vitamin, the key for good immune health. Vitamin D3. Add life to your years. There is no other product like Balance Oil. Test yourself and choose one of our Balance products. Balance Oil with great flavors, or Aqua X that mixes with water into a lemon drink.